So we gotta handle this. It's been ridiculous. How we let haters get so inconspicuous. Watching my power, burning demons. You wanted a purge? Open season. So drunk with illusion, don't see me coming. Meet your demise. I'm a woman.
Good evening, everyone. This is the fifth episode of the TOD Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph G. We're going to start to my left. This is Big Lee.
Oh, dear.
Gary, a.k.a. G-Money. How y'all doing out there?
It's your favorite guy, son. Chill on the mic.
It's your boy, Vic Taylor. Look, that's all I got. Vic Taylor. That's it.
So today we got a few topics we're going to discuss today for y'all. I know one topic is we're going to discuss, I want to say the weak generation of men. This is what's going to be first. And then we're going to go in and try to transition over into dating outside your league. So, we want to today touch bases on like what defines a man, right? What defines a strong man? What defines a weak man? We want to touch on these topics as we move forward today. So in my definition, right, so I feel like what defines a weak man is making decisions based off your emotions, So I know as a man, we can't thrive and make decisions off emotions, right? Our emotions, is roller coaster to some degree, but whether we feel like doing something or not, we still have to push forward, right? So we have to put our emotions to the side, put our anger to the side, and we have to think logically and rationally when we're making decisions, and being the man of the house and having your household structured, whether you have kids or not, or a wife, you're leading, right? And so when you make a decision, it's not about self. You're making the decision based on who's under your umbrella or who's under your roof. So you have to think this through. You can't just base it off, how you feel in that moment. So I'm gonna open the floor up and I'm gonna let everyone define how do what defines or what's their definition of a weak man or weak characteristics of a man.
Well, we started talking about that last episodes, and we was all dropping a little bit of flavor in the pot to kind of stir up, like if we was cooking a real man up real quick, right? And I think we dropped a couple things in there. We was talking about discipline. I remember like speaking about having patience, being able to calculate and things like that. And I would go with what you're saying on the emotional factor, but I definitely say you still have to be able to embrace your emotions as a man. So by all means, you can't negate them, where it's just a whole different level of stoicism where you're just like, I know I'm angry, but never mind or whatever. But you have to be able to embrace and control and exercise control at all fashions of your emotion, and then still be able to deal out whatever that decision is or whatever you're faced with, what obviously is going to be adversity, right? But feel it, because you don't want to be disconnected from yourself. You still want to be self-aware, and then making sure that you take those emotions and you know how to explain them and express yourself to your surrounding people, your relationship, your job, your children, or whoever, because you have to be able to at least talk about it to some degree. So yeah. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I listening to bro definition. Hey, bro, I've definitely had some weak man moments. I can't lie to you, brother. I made a lot of decisions based off emotion. Ain't quite work out for me, but definitely learn from that. And going forward, I analyze my situations, analyze the outcomes of possible decisions, and then made those decisions based off certain circumstances and scenarios. It's working out a lot better. Working out a lot.
Now, remember when we was talking about that, the circumstances and the decisions. We were just having a hot this was a hot topic, y'all, for almost a whole week straight on that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a hot topic. So obviously you have both. You have circumstances and decisions, and we were kind of talking about which weighs more. What's the weightier of the matter? I'm like decisions, decisions, no matter the circumstances. But this is a very hot topic still. We can still kind of let people in on when it comes to masculinity, when it comes to your manhood, because you faced with it every single day. And then we kind of transition that to how the past can come back and bite you,
Mhm.
and the past is coming back from those decisions.
Right. So, in my opinion, I disagree with the weight of his option. So my option is I feel like circumstances outweighs decisions, and I feel like that. Because I feel like it's a lot of circumstances that you are involved in or placed into that had nothing to do with a decision, but that circumstance and the decisions that's made after the circumstance present itself could affect you years down the line, to where now you have a trail of decisions that you are making based on a unforeseen or unfortunate circumstance.
Give an example.
I like that.
Give an
Give an
example.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question, V. So a circumstance. Okay, so I don't have an actual circumstance right now. Vic put me on the spot, but we debated this for about a week strong about circumstances and decisions. But when I think of a circumstance,
we got an
circle
example.
back.
The example I used
I
Go
got
ahead.
one right now.
about the a
Go
young
ahead.
lady deciding to be a stripper or whatever. the case may be.
I'm
Like,
listening, bro.
Oh, okay. I think I remember when you brought that up. Is that how we got to
that's how we
the
got
movie? Is how we started talking about the movie?
it.
after
Yeah.
that?
We was talking about the movie.
Yeah, that's what we talking about. I'll give you a real one. Okay, so circumstance, right? We were talking. One example for me was the current situation where I'm facing my career right now, and where I may be, taking on a new endeavor. I don't know, because it was unforeseen. It came out of nowhere. For the most part, it came out of nowhere, right? So now it's based on I implement my decisions. Do I just get hysterical? Do I admit defeat? Do I, step back and just say, throw my hands up or whatever? No. So I was like, hey, unforeseen circumstance, bet it's time to execute. So what I did was go on a strenuous 30 days, and we had a whole 30-day party,
Yes.
y'all. We had a 30-day strategy trying to figure out life, because everybody at this table had some type of adversity. That 30 days was the countdown. And for my particular issue, I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work backwards, worst case scenario all the way to best case scenario. And I immediately started crunching numbers, trying to figure out if I'm gonna take the severance package or not. I immediately started thinking about other jobs and other new careers, and start reaching out to people and things like that, getting anything lined up on the outside. Then I went to the inside and sent out tons of applications and interviewed for new positions and things like that with inside the company. So it was a lot of, weight on here that I could go different directions, but my decision from that unforeseen circumstances put me in a position to play to win.
Okay.
And that's how I did mine.
So I have a circumstance, right? And my circumstance was when my knee blew out, right? Don't matter what I was doing, my knee gave out, which created an issue with me going back and forth to work, right? Me going back and forth to work, me taking that time off. Yeah, I had the benefits and the long-term, short-term disability, but a lot of jobs don't lean on that, right? So from that point on, me recovering, now it's a new year, because it took me 7-8 months to recover, right? So it's a new year, rolling into the new year. A bunch of things occurred in the job market, Trump and all this, right? And it just so happened I get laid off, right, after about a month of coming back. So that was an unforeseen circumstance, right, that I couldn't control. But the decisions that I have to make after that, being let go from the job, me not being able to work for 8 or 9 months, not knowing what the job was preparing to do, because I'm on short-term disability, long-term disability, So that's one of those situations to where it's like it's an unforeseen situation, unforeseen circumstance that then allows you to now start making critical decisions based on that circumstance. And this circumstance has lasted me now almost a year of ultimate decisions that I have to make. Like you said, crunching numbers. So now I'm crunching numbers now. Didn't think I would have to, but now I am, due to an unforeseen circumstance.
Okay, so
I believe that the argument was what somebody was trying to say: the circumstance outweighs the decision, or the decision outweighs the circumstance. And my my standpoint of it is they go hand in hand,
Agreed.
right? They go hand in hand. Some circumstances will lead to certain decisions that you have to make, and sometimes you get dealt with the better of the worst too, and you still have to make do with either decision that you may have. Keith, your point was no matter what you go through, no matter what the circumstances is, there's always a better decision. To your point was sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's no other decision but the decision that might not be a good decision. But you still have to make that.
A decision. Yeah.
You still have to make a decision.
True.
Like circumstances of the lifestyle of an individual, how they grew up, right?
Right.
Sometimes there's no other better way than probably robbing and killing or selling drugs or whatever the case may be.
Well,
right?
Hold on, wait. So, I mean, just using an example, I would say that would be far as just a man, because we started out asking like standpoints a weak man. So a weak man or a weak-minded individual would give up. That would be just giving up. I would say that would just be giving up and allowing whatever the circumstance, the situation that you have, because you have responsibilities. You're a father. You're a husband. You have to still provide, and just using that as a out to say, hey, I don't have no other choice. This the only decision that I can make is to go rob and steal. So that would be a weak-minded or a weak individual just taking that to be an out for them, opposed to, like you said, going there punching them numbers, collecting unemployment, doing something. You may be uncomfortable with just going to work a regular job that is going to be less than what you was getting paid, before whatever that circumstance happened. But to just say, hey, I'm gonna go rob and steal, that's weak. That's a weak-minded individual.
I'm gonna piggyback. My bad, big dog. I'm gonna piggyback off of what Ralph was saying. I don't think that's necessarily a weak man. I just think sometimes it's a product of your environment, and sometimes you being a product of your environment is just due to a simple lack of knowledge. Maybe that's all that person knows. You know what I'm saying?
Not
Maybe
even
that's
that.
all that person
Not
knows.
even that. Is once again it goes. We can debate this, so we might need to change the.
No, we're gonna debate this.
No, hold on. Yeah, I'm about to say, wait a
We're gonna
minute.
debate
Because we can debate this all day, but it's based off circumstances, right? You laid off, right, or whatever the case may be. Another individual can get laid off who probably don't have the years that you have put in at the job and have a nice little cushion that if that was to happen to them, I'm good until I find something else. Another individual can get laid off, same circumstances, but the decisions that they face with is different. He ain't got no backup plan. This was all he got. He ain't got no savings or no that. He ain't got no severance package. He gone. That check that was the last that he wanted next week was his last check. What are you gonna do?
Right.
Same circumstance, faced with two different types of decisions that they can make based off the individual circumstance.
Yeah, but the decision is what the person does next, and a lot of this is going to come down to self-awareness and understanding the decisions and options you have in front of you. To your point, it is going to come down to knowledge and what type of knowledge you have, so you know how far you can take either option and make gold out of crap. And I think that's what it comes down to. That's like, most people's testimony, even when you talk about a lot of famous individuals, they have all of these sad stories, but they still got to where they got to. And it's through, by the grace of God first, but by sheer will, tenacity, resilience, and things like that. That's a mindset to do that. And that's why I know I get really competitive, because I'm like, man, put me in a room with them, me and you, same circumstances, I bet I win, because my mindset is just different. I don't take L's lightly at all.
I mean, that's perfectly fine until you meet your match, right?
Yeah, right.
You ain't met your match, so you can say that. So that's my point. You until you experience, like you had heard the saying where you can't get right. That boy can't get right.
Right.
And you would think saying that boy can't get right because he's making all these bad decisions, but that's not what the reality of it is. The reality of it is that he's not getting a breakthrough for the decisions he's making, but doesn't necessarily mean he's making poor or bad decisions. You following what I'm saying? So now when you get that, how do you analyze that and say, oh man, you're weak-minded? Oh man, no, he just don't have the resources. He don't have the knowledge. So now he's taking him longer to get to what you done broke through in 3 months. He need a whole 2 years. You see, and that's just the way of the world. So you can't really justify, it's your mind or it's your decisions, because we all function. We 6 different men, 5 different men in a room, and we all make total different decisions. We all are different, but I can't sit and tell you your decision was a poor decision, because that decision may work for your life. That decision may work for your circumstance, the way you're structured, the way you set up. You see what I'm saying? It's just how it is. So how can I sit here and judge your decision and say, oh, it was weak? It's a BS decision.
Then that's like saying there's no one measurement to define a man at this point. And that's what we're trying to kind of do right now, is kind of talk about what a man should be, what he is. But when you open up that door that you just said, it brings in all types of ways to measure a man. And I don't think we have the luxury to be measured all these types of ways to still be deemed as a stand-up guy, as we keep tossing that around. It's not open for that.
Yeah, the question was proceeding as to say, what defines, weak men? What defines
it, man?
Yeah, what defines weak men? And
Vic
went off and could have said, okay, his mindset. He didn't necessarily have to give a description of a weak mindset of a man, but I stated, when you make decisions off emotion. We transitioned the conversation about circumstances and
but that goes into it.
Yeah, but we're just defining a man. What characteristics makes a weak man. You know what I mean? And then we can talk about how we overcome it. What can you do to set the tone to change it?
I definitely say a mentor, because when I was young, I without having a father around, I gravitated to multiple mentors to get the information, the wisdom, so I can better help myself, because I did not have the answers. And it took that for me to have the mindset I have now, where I'm like, no, it's a better way. I just ain't found it out. I just ain't figured it out yet, but I know it is. Okay, who knows it? Who do I know that knows it? And I go and that's the direction I go.
That's it.
And I'm not, my ego isn't high enough to where I'm like, I don't need nobody's help. No, I got plenty of help, but it was help through me humbling myself to go get the help and then using it back for myself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just being, I would say the weakness is not being able to be that to ask for help.
Right.
It stand just at that. If you aren't able to ask for help when you're in that position, or that's the circumstance or situation, you just want to do it on your own, then that's the weak mindset. That's a mindset that we could define any man. If you're unable to ask for help when you're in that situation, that's the weakness.
I get that. To piggyback off of what all of y'all saying, pretty much. I feel like the definition of a quote unquote man goes back to what we initially started talking about, and that's circumstance and scenario, and also expectation. It's gonna be certain things and certain people who gonna expect something from you differently than the next male. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be some things that, I want to word this the right way. It's gonna be some things expected of you that's not expected of me. There's gonna be some things expected of you that's not expected of me, and that goes around the table because all of us got different ways that we are men. If it was time to go to the gym, I would call you before I call me. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If I was finna go out and work, I'd probably call you before I call me in some cases. You feel what I'm saying? I feel like what makes a person quote unquote weak is not being able to live up to the expectations that were given to you directly.
By who though?
Depending on what it is. Even in the job force. You've been a supervisor for years. It's certain people you're gonna call for certain things because you expect something of them. You feel where I'm going with this?
Somewhat. I'm a little.
I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's gonna be certain people you call for certain things. It's like, okay, I know he's strong here. I know she's strong here. I know they strong here. Whatever. I'm gonna call them for this, but I know you're capable of doing this. This is what I hold you accountable to doing. If you can't come, okay, they probably tripping. I'm not gonna necessarily say weak, but that's when you hold them accountable because you know what they're,
Okay, so
capable of.
with you saying that, right? Because I do agree with what you're saying, but when you're saying that, it's like now we have to set the foundation. What qualities of a, just like you said, man is supposed to have to now, if he doesn't meet those qualities, now he's considered weak. Like what are those qualities? Like you said, if you're looking to work, you're gonna call him because he has a higher quality, a higher standard. He will meet that demand, a little more better than the rest, right? You say the gym, you call me because I have a little more knowledge in that area. I will meet that demand better. Okay, so if we
Those are expectations that you set upon yourself.
This sound like strong suits of like a
Right,
team
yeah,
and
right.
how
No,
you
I'm
would
just-
address everybody in the team. What's their strong suit? Not necessarily a base of just men.
Cause
Period.
That's why I
'cause
asked the
all
question.
men ain't the same, and all men don't operate the same. That don't make one man worse or better than the other. It's just that you're better suited in this area. That person may be better suited in this area.
Okay, so what is the topic? Is it what defines a man?
Yeah, every man. I
No, that's
personally
it's
feel
just
like
transitioning at this point. The
Yeah.
topic was, how do we define a weak man?
right.
Why
Now,
are
we
we
better
trying
get
to-
it straight because I know the women sitting here like,
Like-
yes. They don't define it. We can
No,
say whatever it
I'm
is
just- I'm
at this
just
point.
saying-
Defining a weak man.
It's not being held, just being held to accountability of where you fall short on what you were expected to do.
I
Because
wouldn't
all
say
men are
that.
not expected
I
to do
wouldn't-
the
I
same
don't know
thing.
if I
I wouldn't
put it
say
like
that.
that.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say not taking accountability.
Right.
Now, if you want to leave it plain like that, then fine. But not being able to meet these expectations of whom it was put on. Like, if you put an expectation on me and I don't meet your expectations, that don't necessarily consider me weak.
Well, that's why I said by who put an
Yeah, like who
expectation.
put these expectations?
I mean, I go Deacon. Let's go to God.
yes, yes.
Now,
The
if it-
expectations
now,
of a man that the
No,
Most High
no,
has
what I'm saying is
described on a
if you
person.
can perform the task and not be able to do it.
that still don't make you weak.
In some people's eyes, it do though.
You just made a decision not to do something. So if we just gonna say that, we just gonna say being a man means his word is bond. So if it was something that you said you was gonna do or you committed to do and you didn't do it, then I can challenge that and say you're not being a man of your word. So we can speak about something in particular.
Put specifics on
And,
that.
and and that's what being held accountable because you didn't being held accountable. What you saying?
But yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's kind of like what we just trying to break down what it is that you actually trying to say. And I
Yeah,
think
like
we
I said,
got
I'm
it,
trying to word it
but-
right, bro. Yeah, y'all
but-
got it.
but
I was
that's
just trying to
it.
word it right, bro. That's all.
Look, men, we know men must be disciplined, responsible, accountable. They should be strong. I mean, the definition of a man is an adult human male.
Right, but
You
that's
know
what
what I
I'm
mean?
saying.
So-
So when you sum all when you sum all of this up as to what defines a weak man, or what makes a man weak, is
What's our main roles, Ralph? We talked about this before.
to protect, provide, and
Okay.
provision.
Okay, it's protect and provide. If you cannot do that, and that is the base functions of a man, protect and provide, now you may be classified as a weaker man or a weak man because that's your main roles. Protect and provide. That is what you are being
That's across the
judged
board.
on by other men.
That's across the board.
That's what you're
Yeah, I
being
agree with
judged
that.
on by God. It's as simple as that. You need to be in your integrity, a man of your word, and you need to be protecting and providing for and or something. Protect something. Now, when we talk about like some of these YNs out here, I don't know what they're trying to protect other than a false sense of ego and pride. I don't know what they're providing for other than dysfunction and chaos to the community. What else are they providing?
They
Yeah,
providing a drip. It's their style.
That's just
Right.
like a guidance at that point. Bro.
Yeah, it is like a
It's like a
guidance, you know,
at that
but
point.
okay, so even in our community, what is it? 54% of men are single and childless, black men. So they don't even have kids. So majority of black men don't even have kids. Then we talk about single mother-led homes. That's about 80, that's almost 80% of homes are led by single moms. But when we look at the other stats, there are men in the home. So I think we're moving away from there ain't no men in the home. I think when you check enough stats, there's men in the home. You look at the table right now, everybody in the home to some degree or around their kids, you know, and I think we're meeting the expectations, because even that report from the CDC, out of the mouths of Black women, Black men are the most active fathers out of all races. So again, I think, and that was 2013. So here we are, at least 10 years later. I think we're doing what we should be doing, and we can keep going down the line on stats on how at this point Black men are really doing well across this country. So where is the disconnect with some of the weaker men? Where's the disconnect with the YNs? Like, what are they missing? Where are they dropping the ball at? Is it the circumstances, or is it their decisions? What is going on? Is it just lack of self-awareness? What are we doing?
Honestly, just think it's guidance, bro. Because it's a lot of quote unquote YNs that come from 2-parent households.
I peeped that.
Yeah.
I've seen some of them at work, and I'm like,
It's
what?
like a
Why you acting like that? And your mom and your daddy right there.
Yeah,
Like,
bro,
what you
it's
doing?
Crazy work.
So
And
who? So now I'm
influences.
asking, who running the household? Is it her or him?
It's the influence.
I'm gonna ask you.
It's the influence.
Exactly.
They influence.
It's the influence.
They not taking the examples and the leads that they have in front of them. You know, I always think about that. I'm the eldest son, and I always just remember the conversations that my mom would have with my younger siblings. Hey, y'all got examples right in front of y'all, so that should be your guideline. That should be your blueprint to follow. You know what's already been laid in front of you. But hey, you ain't cool as me, or you don't know more than me. I'm gonna go figure it out on my own. So they follow the paths or the trends of somebody outside, opposed to what is actually presented to them.
They
until
follow
get
what
to
they
that position.
like, and they do what they feel comfortable with doing. They don't want to be uncomfortable, and I feel like that's the bottom line of it. You know, if you can wake up every day with no responsibility, do what you want to do, you know, with no type of guidance or no type of, I guess, restriction, you know, that's where it comes from.
And that becomes a problem sometimes in the long run, because it's like you get so comfortable with being like pampered and not having to worry. It's like, I've been plenty of times, like growing up, I was like a camp counselor. There was a bunch of kids like, yeah, I got locked up. Man, your mama and your daddy work. How'd you do that? Or what? No, my mama just came and got me. They wasn't worried about nothing. So they didn't care about going out doing dumb stuff and getting into trouble, because they knew they had somebody to back them.
Okay, speaking of that right there, because you said your mom told you this, and you saying somebody mama came and saved them.
Let's get into that.
I think we need to have a conversation with the women to a degree about the mothers with their sons. We're back to that again, and being overly mothered, and you know, stripping away the consequence from some of these young men. Men need consequences. They need to be held accountable. If you are overly mothering them, you are stripping them away, because that nurturing is just too much. It's making them comfortable, and that adversity is needed to make a man. It says it in the scripture. You have to go through the fire. As simple as that. It's the only way you're gonna learn. You know, and then we get a mother's love is a two-edged sword. You can either overly mother or underly mother, and either way is going to create some type of wound. So I know how some of those mother wounds have affected me, and I grew up in a single-parent household with my mom. We talked about this before, and my mom, although she did a good job not holding that back, the negative effects of that was her tongue. The things she would say to me, my mom would criticize me so much that I used to have to always question whether I was good enough. So guess what that turned into? What type of mother wound that did? I always felt like I gotta do something extra. Always feel like I gotta do something extra just to be okay. I don't want to be average, because to her, average is garbage. So I gotta be above average just to be average. So that's my life. That's how I move. That's the mother wound for me. I don't know how that's affected the rest of y'all, but I bet some of the YNs got mother wounds too. Getting overly mothered, or the lack of mothering, will mess up some of their decisions as well, because you constantly screaming out for your mama, and your mama ain't there. You want everybody to treat you like your mama would. Okay, and
For sure.
So go ahead, touch on that.
We can get in that, because I had I had to break down a scenario of just what I've been through as a kid. You know, my mother didn't allow what the circumstances was going on. She didn't break down or shed a tear in front of us, even in a situation that was not best. You know, going without having any water, and can't flush the toilet, and just had to use drips of water just to be able to use the bathroom. Being able, having to take having to take bowel movements and tossing it into the trash. But she didn't allow that circumstance situation to affect us to the point that she was broken down. We was able to operate and move through that until we was able to do better. But the circumstance was the water broke, the water in the building, the pipes broke, so we had no water in the building. But we still stayed in this building until we was able to do something better. I'm saying this to say that because of that, it was conversation that was had to say, hey, the kids, y'all are here in this situation, but if I broke, then y'all would. And so to say that may not, these kids now are more sensitive and they pay attention and close to what's going on. So we could not have that same, I would say, what's the word you use? Yeah, we couldn't have that same mindset.
A little more
We
hard,
have
resilient.
To, yeah, we would have to talk to them a little more and say, this is what the situation is, and this is how we're going to handle it. It's okay if I'm not okay.
Well, it's a difference. We all been in school to where you get those kids that you notice was less fortunate, and you didn't know it like that. You just sensed it, whether they had a stench to them, the hair wasn't done, little things like that. Nowadays, that's 10 times worse, right? The level of embarrassment is 10 times worse. You see all of the kids fight now all over this, all in cities, different states. You see all of this, right? So now we can handle a level of embarrassment as we grew up because it stayed in the household. It stayed with close family. People didn't know what was going on in your household outside. It was our mothers kept the stuff away from the teachers and the deans and counselors. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how we grew up. So when you knew and you was fixated mentally that you were struggling with something in your household, it was cool because it could have got worse, right? Whether we knew what worse was now. Nowadays, something is going on in your household, it got recorded, it got posted. The level of embarrassment is tremendous now. And that's what creates the high level of sensitivity. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what they can't handle. They can't handle that gesture of being laughed at. They can't handle that level of embarrassment because it's heightened. Now, what I can say is I haven't experienced that, right? Because I'm not a YN. I haven't experienced that tremendous level of embarrassment. But somebody smacking your books out your hand, only people knew that was the people that were standing there watching, not the whole school,
right.
Not the school over, you know what I mean? That no, like that didn't happen. So it's a different level of embarrassment when you get embarrassed. And I think that's what triggers, the feedback, the pushback. This what triggers the retaliation because the level of embarrassment, I can't go, I can't be seen like that. I have to retaliate to some degree. You're not going to play me like that. And that's where I think a lot of it comes from. I'm not going to sit here and say that it don't stem from the household and you're not looking at the guidance and listening to your parents and all that. It's a little bit of that, but it's also, you don't know how this feel, mama. I have to retaliate. Pops, you don't know how they taint in my name. I have to do something. And this isn't even involving parents because the parents, they ain't never dealt with that neither. So they be on the bandwagon like, let's go take care of it. let's go do something about it. Because they feel that anger and that embarrassment as well, because you my child. So that's where that stemmed from. That's why it's so hard. So now you have to over nurture, you have to over discipline. You have to be able to keep up with what's going on so you can guard and shield your kids from that to some degree. Because it wasn't a lot of guarding and shielding because we didn't have all these options and variables when things like that took place.
I get that, but some of these kids is really sensitive, G. I don't know. I mean, I hear you on it's a different level of public shaming, but we still got that. I still felt shame back in the day, guilt and all of those things. It was with less people, but those were the people that mattered versus 100 people that I don't know. And I think too, when you, as much as these kids or these, we talking about the YNs, but even these city girls, as much as they want to be online and flaunting, they want all the positive stuff in front of everybody. You notice that they on it, they go to the gym, record themselves stepping on the Stairmaster a little bit, and then they leave. because they want everybody to see them doing something. So that's the anti-equation. Just as much as it's something bad that can be shown across the world, they want something good shown too. And that's what I'm saying. Like, the sensitivity level is raised a little too far. And I think, again, fathers typically are more of the ones that prepare their children for the world. The mothers more so help protect and help that emotional stability along the way. But it's a two-edged sword with this. So that's what I'm getting at. And I think look at social media. Look at what we see in some of the mothers do. Yeah, you rarely even see the fathers at this point. Either you don't see them or you see them. And I've seen more positive father interaction or just no father interaction. But on the mother side, I'm seeing negative and positive, like almost at a 50-50 rate online and what they're doing. And it's not to bash, it's just an observation. Like, you can see this stuff, and I think that it needs to be addressed, it needs to be discussed, because too often we always mama did the best she can do. But what happens with daddy? Nah, daddy either did it or he didn't. There's no middle ground with dad. You know what I'm saying? But mama gets a lot of grace. Mama got some issues. You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of baby mamas got some issues. Yeah, so get daddy back in their life, mama.
That's it.
Get them back over there. It's definitely needed, and the stats show that too, on how single parent father led homes actually produce a more successful child opportunities than single mother led homes. Sorry, that's what the stats say, right? So I mean, obviously there's something to learn from it, right? So I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I think we should all know this already. And with that being said, let's hear what some of you all got to say. We'll put that on the clock too as we continue to go into it. If you all want to call in, you want to chop it up and get in on this conversation, we want to hear what you got to say. By all means, the mic is open. 708-223-8953. Again, that's 708-223-8953. Call in, talk to us. Let's talk about it.
Let's get into it now.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Get into it.
So since we was touch bases on the foundation of a man, right, the qualities of a man, so let's go ahead and let's talk about the I want to say dating outside your league, right, and let's go into like what that looks like.
Well, that's something about upbringing at this point. Mama and daddy still a part of this issue.
Yeah,
all the way through.
We know for like they don't have no outside of their league.
Yeah, we had this conversation, and we even talked about, hey guys, what do y'all feel like is dating outside your league? And one gentleman was like, oh, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm not in the league.
Hey, y'all gotta chill. I'm drinking water, bro.
Either you
gotta chill.
Either you broke or you not. I mean, which one?
Folks thought he was super league. He was like, oh, in a league of my own. I was like, that's
created the
That's
league.
not you. So, but yeah, I think again that comes from the social engineering of one, society kind of telling, I think on the woman's side, society telling women like you can have it all. I think that is echoed through social media. You see it all day long. And at least for men, I think growing up, we all know we have to compete and perform. So you have to demonstrate you're even in a specific league to get certain things. But I think men go crazy once you hit that league, once you demonstrate and put yourself in a certain position. I think at that point, then men like, I made it. And then the humility leaves and they just go crazy,
So
I think that's what, like, oh, my bad, bro. Go ahead.
Good. Okay. So my opinion of dating outside your league, right? I feel like, when you're dating, and you have standards and structures, right, to some degree. And if your opposition can't meet those standards of structure, I feel like then you should know at some point either you're going to change or do whatever you have to do to meet that standard or structure, or you're going to throw the towel in and say, you know what, this may not be a great fit for me, this, that, and the third. Now, when you say dating outside the league, doesn't necessarily mean that you're dating somebody that's a higher class value than you, or you date somebody at a lower class value than you. It's just pretty much, it's just what you entail with your dating, right, standards, right? And if that opposition can meet those standards, and then you be intertwined, right? Equally yoked, you know, you
Oh,
be
okay.
good
So
together.
you're just saying not compatible.
Yeah,
Y'all
you
just
know,
not
so like
compatible.
when, like as you dating though, you may not want to leave them for whatever reason, but you know that you can't keep up, right? So now you putting yourself in a situation of what? Getting left, getting cheated on, you know, and all these other structures that events that you know you're gonna endure because you can't provide them what they're looking for, even after they told you several times. But you're either not man or woman enough to walk away and you say, you know what, I can't keep up.
I think that's
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that's an uneasy feeling because you feel like it's no way out if you're in that relationship and you're like, I cannot give you the experience you're looking for. And at that point, it's like, do you admit defeat and leave the situation and move on and get somebody that is more your speed, your flavor, you know, or do you just go through enduring this this overwhelming feeling of just never being enough? And I think that's where the self-awareness should kick in and just like, you know what, I have to choose me, I have to opt out, you know, and I gotta go somebody, you know, because it be somebody else that is your speed and your flavor. And you know, the whole time the person you was with thought you was baking soda and another person think you dope, you know. So go ahead and leave them and get with that person that's on that speed. If that's the case, just be honest about it. Y'all need to have that conversation, you know. But yeah, some people out here throwing shots that like you can't shoot half court. Why is you shooting half court shots? You know what I'm saying? That's not for you. You got little arms, you know, little hands.
And fingers.
Right. You can't palm the ball. Why you in the big leagues at this point?
I would say I think that, you know, if we kind of sum it up, I think that it's not just men that do this, it's women that do it as well. But if we think about it, you know, you got about a good 6 months to keep this up. So
Set the deadline.
you know, you got about 6 months to keep this up and not be your true self.
30 days.
Another 30 days.
I mean, I'm saying you know, we speak about dating, you know, you got the honeymoon stage. So we speak about, you know, everything is heightened, you know, it's at its highest, you know, in the beginning stages. So you, like I said, you got about 6 months to keep this up. You know, your funds is getting low. You know, you ain't able to do all these extravagant things that you was doing in the beginning. Now it's like, all right, you know, are we gonna admit, you know, that you can't keep this up, or you gonna keep trying? You know, and I think that's what entail when you start, you know, speaking about dating. You know, I think it's more men that try to keep this up, and then, you know, on the other side, if I can say, women would just try to hold on to, you know, certain situations because they may not want to let that man go. Or hey, I heard a woman say, and I ain't gonna say I heard a woman, I heard my wife say, hey, release them back to the streets. Hey, be okay, release them back to the streets. You can't keep it up, you know. Let somebody else have a turn.
I done heard a couple women in their stories like, if you broke, don't even be in my DMs. I'm like, dang. And then what's so crazy to me is when I'm seeing some of these women's stories and it's like, or posts, and they are airing out guys in their DMs, like, hey, this dude in my DM, da da da. They posting it, and it's like embarrassing the individual. And it's just like, okay, either he didn't know what his league was, or you just not that humble or nice of a person. Why do you have to embarrass them on top of just telling them no the first time? It's so crazy to me. I don't typically see men do that. Men get DMs too, ladies. They get DMs all the time, but I don't really see men embarrassing women on the DMs and like, look at this chick in my DM. She thought she had a chance, you know. And then screenshot post.
You tried.
Right. You tried it. You know, come on, man. Like, that's a little extra. And then, especially if you're posting to get the attention, isn't that defeating the purpose? You're posting to get the attention and bring people to your page or to you, and then they approach you shooting a shot, and then you blow back at them like, why are you shooting your shot? Well, you sent a half-naked picture for me to respond to. What you mean? I'm confused. What was you doing?
Stay off them apps, my boy.
Exactly. And I posted about that before. Like, hey, if you want to hook a different fish, you need different bait. You can't be out here looking for a king and you over here fishing for clowns. It's as simple as that.
Different bait in a different body of water.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially because it really don't even matter what they post. You know, they still gonna get a response. So it's like if you posting this, like what response you think you're gonna get?
Facts.
Yeah, but dudes do it too, man.
No, and they
call
do.
it
And I don't
clickbait.
even know what some of these dudes be doing with they little flashy
they rip
pinky
money.
up in the videos and things like that. But again, I don't see them more so bashing where they're, you know, posting and the screenshots of the DMs and bashing the women. I don't typically see that. I'll be honest with you, you know. But I do think if we reverse that back to the upbringing and things like that, when you're talking about dating outside of your lead and expectations of marriage and things like that, I think that goes back to how we were raised, because a lot of people are suffering from arrested development. They were hit with some traumatic event and then they never grew past the age of that event. So some people are walking around here in a 30-year-old body with a 15-year-old mindset because that's when life impacted them the hardest. You know, and I think that goes into dating, especially, right? The past comes back to haunt you, just like the conversation about the movie and the stripper in the movie and things like that. Your past will come back to bite you. Look at what's happening with Cassie. This is it's then blew up.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
all
even
over the
talk-
place.
That's wild. That's a whole nother episode. that's
I ain't even gotta be an
wild.
episode because I don't really care. But I'm just saying, just for the significance of how your past affects you. So those decisions you made way back then have shaped your reality and your experience. And now they have set her up with everything that's going on with her now has come back to hit her in the rear end. And I feel bad for her husband.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest.
I think I mean, thank God nobody here dealt with nothing like that. But I think the, particular circumstance, I think that affects everybody. Your past, does affect you. You make good decisions, you make bad decisions. Nobody made no decisions like that. I don't even use baby oil. I use cocoa butter. You feel me? But your past is gonna catch up with you. Sometimes for the good, sometimes you might have to work out some things. I'm not saying necessarily everybody has a bad past, but your past does affect you. So all that lead a past behind, no, that's what made you who you are today. Your past.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Reminder again, if anybody want to get in on this, because I know I'm gonna hear some backlash from somebody later on. Give it to me right now. I want the smoke now. 708-223-8953. Again, that's 708-223-8953. Give me the smoke now. Don't try to catch me later. I'm ready.
Yeah, I heard your little podcast. I want to call you. You see what I'm saying?
No, because I got so much more I can say on that, and that's why I'm ready. Just go ahead. That's what
it'd be when they actually get an opportunity to get put on spot, and they like, oh, you know what, I bow out. No, we like to hear. We like to hear.
No, and that go like what he was saying earlier about the younger generation and just being on social media and being where everybody can see. So people got a lot to say behind closed doors and in the private, but it takes a real bold person. It takes a lot of courage. That's part of being a man, is having that courage to get out here, to get in front of a bunch of people and say what's on your mind, speak the truth and things like that. That's what a lot of people don't want to do. Everybody's scared to say, everybody's scared to say something out loud, but everybody want to say something, behind closed. No, come on, bring it. Let's go. As simple as that.
But kind of talk about what y'all was talking about earlier though. I kind of have a slightly different outlook on that. Y'all call it dating out of your league. What if it's dating out of your confidence?
That's part of that.
Yeah, dating out of your confidence. Because maybe a chick is quote unquote in a certain type of league, but she not used to small stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if she
stuff,
right. So if she's
how small we talking?
If she's acceptable to that, right?
I'm just saying you can talk to a chick who done been a roof Chris but never had a picnic, but she's more excited about the picnic.
Yeah, but that's a total different story because she's acceptance to that. Now, if she's complaining about, if she's used to Roof Chris and you bring a picnic and she like, well, what's this?
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, now you outside your league because you can't give her Roof Chris. You feel what I'm saying? So that's where that come into play. But if she's for you, right, and she's with that and she decides to be overjealous with the picnic, that's not necessarily out your league. She can experience a lot of different things,
and that's what I was
what I mean. Yeah, her experience level doesn't mean anything. It's what she's asking or requiring you to do, can you meet them expectations? And then vice versa. You know, things like that. Not how much money you got, not it's your mate, the person you're dating, what she's requiring from you, can you provide that? And if you can't, are you man enough to say, you know what? This is out of my capacity. I can't keep this up. I'm not even going to sit here and keep promising you things that, you know, that I can't fulfill. It's better for me to walk away because, like Keith said, you know, you're either going to sit in, you know, misery, or, you know, you're going to help both of us out, you know.
But you know what? And to tie that back into your upbringing and the over or underly mothering, because it happens to women too. Women have mother wounds as well, and or father wounds. That and all of this stuff shapes your value system. So when you just said, "Well, I can't take you to Ruth Chris, but you ever had a a nice little picnic in the park, this and that," she, I don't know, I never had. It's like,
No.
Now you have to look at, what does she value? Does she value that type of intimacy, or is her value based on a dollar amount? And that's okay. Now I need to. How were you raised?
Yeah, what I'm saying,
Simple as that.
The situations I've been encountered with, it's like, you want to know what? I've never done that before, because I'm so used to. I've never done that before. It'd be a good experience, you know what I'm saying? But it just be, that's what I was getting at.
No, and you rightfully so, but that don't mean you out of her league or she out of yours. Y'all just have two different value systems at that point, that she can value those real intimate moments. And maybe she never had them with her father. Maybe she never, her mom, she watched her mother date men for very precarious reasons and never really asked her mother, hey, how do I date men, or how do I keep a man? To Lee's point, when you thinking about staying together and, man, I'm not able to provide him with this experience. Well, did your mom teach you how to provide him with that experience, or are you just winging it? I mean, have you ever took a femininity class, a coaching class, anything like that? You got to be able to shift into that. And the same thing for men too. Did your father show you how to protect and provide, or are you just out here blindly throwing hands like a little, I can't say that word online, but like one of them, you know what I mean? Yeah, like I seen some of these YNs fight, and I'm like, y'all got no type of train. Like, what's going on?
Ladders, bro.
That's why they picking up guns and shooting, and then they can't aim right. They shooting up the neighborhood. And I know we coming close to the close out here. I was hoping somebody call with some hot stuff. I was ready, but hopefully next time somebody will. Don't be scared, y'all. Again, you wanna go ahead and get ready to take us out.
Yeah. Hey, so I want to say, this was a great episode. I feel like we had some controversial conversations, some back and forth. We was expecting somebody to call in, but as we close out, I want to say appreciate Intellectual Radios for hosting the 5th episode of TOD Podcast today. I think this was one of our first episodes to where we all didn't agree as a unit. We was going back and forth, so it made it kind of feel kind of different. But as we close out today's TOD, I want to say thank everybody for that viewed it, watched it live, and we'll be back.
Yeah, tune in again. For episode 6. we getting that now. It's a gravy train now. I still want to smoke. I am ready. Where's everybody at? Don't bring me no goofy stuff. You awake?
Bro slept on the way.
Sleepy out here.
Dude, you need some B12.
You're not. So a man is awake and aware at all moments, and you sleep on him.
Oh my God, dog! I'm in this joint like, yeah.
Just seen him on the way here. I'm like, bro,
Y'all have been working too hard for something that didn't need sacrifice. And I guess you didn't take it too far and won't value yourself for the right price. But you are the reason they breathe and the reason their dreams unfold. So we gotta handle this when